I'll choose this spacious room. At Jessica's excited words, my brother-in-law Tom looked happy. While I was unpacking, watching their interaction from the corner of my eye, I was teased by Tom.
What? Don't complain even if you're dissatisfied. If you resist, it's divorce.
The two, excited about getting their new house, didn't know its secret. Watching their blissful ignorance was pitiful, so I turned to them with a startling revelation. My name is Emily. I'm a 35-year-old illustrator. I have a twin sister named Catherine. She is also an illustrator like me, but works as a comic book artist as well. In addition to being an illustrator, I also do another job on the side. Although I consider that my main job, I love illustrating, so I call it my primary occupation. Catherine and I are identical twins, identical in both face and body. We look so much alike that even our parents can't tell which of us is Emily and which is Catherine. We were such perfect identical twins that it often caused confusion. We used this to our advantage, and often played pranks. We would switch places for tests and make adults guess who we were. One day our father scolded us harshly.
You weren't born as twins to confuse people.
He said we were born to support each other, and we stopped causing trouble for others. Seeing our parents' sad faces made us realize we were doing something really wrong. Since then, we haven't used our twin status to hurt anyone. It's a sign of our maturity. Unlike Catherine, who is married, I'm single. I'm cautious about seeing men as potential partners, while Catherine is more romantic and easily falls for someone. Because of this, she often got deceived by men and would cry to me every time they broke up. But her current husband is a really good person, understanding both her personality and work, and he cares about our family too. His name is Tom. They met through a friend, and Catherine said she fell for his sincerity and kindness. Tom has a stepdaughter named Jessica. He took her in after her previous wife pushed custody onto him. I felt a sense of repulsion when he said that. Isn't pushed custody onto me a bit harsh? Jessica is your precious daughter, right?
You're right. She's more precious to me than my own life. But Jessica is a girl and my work requires a lot of travel. Even if we lived together, I'd be away often. Also, I'm a man. I thought it would be better for her to be with her mother than to be lonely with me. At that time, I didn't have the confidence to raise her alone. With Tom's face contorted as he spoke about the complex situation, I apologized. Without knowing the details of his family situation, I had spoken subjectively and hurt him. I also apologized to Catherine. I regretted asking unpleasant questions when she had just introduced her husband to me. However, both of them forgave my rudeness. It's natural for you to be worried, Emily. You think that your precious sister's husband is neglecting his child. Besides, Catherine is a kind person, so you might be worried that she got involved with the wrong man. I'm sure Catherine was concerned about it too, but she never asked me for details because she was being considerate. I hope my explanation has put your mind at ease.
At first, I was worried like you, sis, but seeing how Tom takes care of Jessica, all my worries disappeared. I know better than anyone how much he cherishes her. Seeing the two of them smile happily, I reflected on my unnecessary meddling. With these two, everything would be fine. They would overcome any challenges. While I was happy that Catherine had found someone trustworthy, I also felt a bit lonely. Catherine, who used to rely on me and call for me whenever she needed help, was no longer here. Feeling like my role as her sister had ended, I was a bit disheartened. However, seeing Catherine's happiness was my true joy. With this genuine feeling, I asked Tom to really take care of Catherine. He responded with equal sincerity, promising to cherish her forever. After that, we chatted about various things. Tom told me more about his daughter Jessica and the circumstances of his divorce.
As I advanced in my career, I became more of a workaholic, and I think I placed a lot of burden on my wife.
He confessed painfully that it was no wonder she left him. However, when the topic shifted to Jessica, Tom spoke with a vibrant expression.
She's got a bit of a devilish side, but she's also straightforward and endearing. I think you'll get along well with her, Emily.
Seeing Tom's display of affection for his family, I couldn't help but smile. He truly cherished his family, and I was confident he would take good care of Catherine. As long as Catherine is happy, that's all that matters to me. From that moment, I decided not to interfere unnecessarily in their affairs. Until that day when Catherine came crying to me. It was pouring rain that day, and there was even a flood warning on the weather forecast. I was leisurely working at home, not expecting any visitors, when suddenly the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting a delivery, nor had my parents said they were visiting. Catherine would usually let me know in advance. Who could it be on a day like this? As I cautiously checked the intercom, I saw Catherine standing there, drenched from head to toe. It was the first time Catherine, who always contacted me beforehand, visited without any notice. Panicking, I rushed to the door, and as soon as I opened it, she hugged me tightly. "Catherine, what's wrong? You're soaking wet." "Sis, help me." I was bewildered as Catherine started crying loudly. We live in an apartment building, and this is the entrance. Her crying out loud could disturb the neighbors. First, I brought her inside and grabbed a bath towel from the bathroom, telling her to dry her face and body. "Dry your hair for now. I'll run a bath, so wait here. I'll also make you a warm drink." It had been so long since Catherine had come to me crying like this. This scene, which was familiar in our childhood, hadn't happened in years. Catherine only seeks help when she's truly at her limit. Did something happen at home? Worrying, I prepared to warm her up. Once the bath was ready, I called her, and she obediently went to the bathroom. After calming down in the bath, she returned to the living room, looking refreshed. I placed a warm cup of coffee in front of her. "What happened? For you to come here without any notice, it must be something serious." Gently sipping the coffee, Catherine tried to calm down as I asked her softly. Hearing my words, tears welled up in her eyes again, but she held them back and began to explain. "Actually, Tom has been acting strangely lately." Her expression was serious, and on closer look, she seemed exhausted. Since Catherine started living with Tom, she had been balancing housework and her job. Jessica, who's still in high school, requires a lot of attention. Catherine told me she was doing most of the household chores while working from home. Because of his previous wife, I expected to handle the housework, but I started getting overwhelmed with all the tasks, and it began to affect my work. Besides making daily lunchboxes, washing sports uniforms, gathering study materials, and more, Catherine, who had no experience raising children, was leading a busy life. Initially, she put in the effort, thinking it was her duty as a housewife, but the chores Tom and Jessica asked her to do increased daily. At first, it was just the usual chores that any wife would do, but gradually I was expected to prepare Tom's work items, Jessica's school supplies, eventually even shopping and massages, and they ordered me around for everything. Tom and Jessica started looking down on Catherine, who worked from home. Tom even resorted to mental harassment, saying,
"I'm the one supporting you."
They controlled her by threatening divorce if she disobeyed. Jessica, who I thought was a good girl at first, started treating me like a servant after Tom began saying those things. If she forgot to prepare something for school, Jessica would complain sarcastically. She also nitpicked the taste of Catherine's cooking every day. Catherine said that Jessica only appreciated her efforts during the first few days of their marriage. Feeling overwhelmed by the unreasonable demands, Catherine asked Jessica if she could take care of some things herself, but Jessica responded coldly and angrily. "Aren't I giving you work since you're just lounging around doing your home job? Why do you act like you're the one struggling when Dad has a much harder job? I can't believe it. Aren't you living off Dad?" That night, Jessica reported this to Tom, who then yelled at Catherine. Since then, Catherine stopped asking Jessica for anything, fearing she would report her again and cause more mental anguish. Our work as illustrators is also influenced by our mood on any given day. Whether my pen flows smoothly or not is heavily influenced by my mental state. There are times when I can't draw for a week due to feeling stuck. Catherine tearfully told me that she was so scared of Tom's scolding that she couldn't even pick up her pen, resulting in subpar work and causing trouble for her clients. After that, she endured a life of constant anxiety. She made Jessica's lunch every single day, handled Tom's work preparations, and constantly watched their moods to avoid getting scolded. But instead of appreciating her, Tom and Jessica started criticizing her work. "Why is my lunch full of frozen food? I pretend I make my own lunches at school, so you need to cooperate. If they find out I have frozen food, I'll be embarrassed and ostracized."
"The creases on my dress shirt aren't ironed out. Can't you even iron properly?" My previous wife did this perfectly.
The Tom before marriage was a completely different person. Jessica, too, seemed like a kind and earnest girl before Catherine and Tom got together. But the reality was a nightmare. It felt like a scam. I couldn't hide my shock at Catherine's story. What should I do? I'm scared to be with them. I don't want to go back to that house. Seeing Catherine cling to me crying made me furious. Unforgivable. How dare they treat my precious sister like a stress relief punching bag? I can't forgive this. I gently hugged Catherine, stroking her hair to comfort her. It's okay. I will definitely help you. No matter what, I will separate Catherine from Tom and Jessica and protect her from those demons. But how? I needed to think of a way to support Catherine. At that moment, my eyes fell on an old elementary school album. We had gotten in trouble with our father just before graduating elementary school, and the album contained several photos of us during our pranks. Remembering those nostalgic times, I proposed an unexpected idea to Catherine. Catherine, do you remember our swap trick from elementary school? I remember, but what about it? Let's do it. We'll swap places for a month. I'll live in your house with you, and you can go home to our parents and explain the situation to them. You want to end things with him, don't you? No way. If they find out we're switching places, who knows what they'll do to you, Emily. I'll be fine. There's no way they'll find out. But this requires your determination. You probably won't avoid a divorce. Are you ready for that? Are you prepared to leave him? I reassured Catherine, who was worried about me, to think about herself for now. It was a spontaneous plan. Catherine couldn't give an immediate answer and asked for time to sort out her feelings. So we called it a day. However, after enduring more of her hellish slave life, Catherine's anger reached its limit, and she contacted me to proceed with the plan. I had a major event in a month, so the timing was perfect. The plan was set in motion. Leave the rest to me. While Tom and Jessica were out, we switched necessary items and Catherine went back to our parents' house. I began the process of terminating my lease and started living Catherine's life. In the seemingly long yet short month, I planned to gather evidence to secure a favorable divorce and show them what hell really is. They hurt my precious sister. No way would I let this slide. That night, as I was serving dinner with Jessica at the table, an incident happened.
Hey, what's up with a bath? What the hell is that?
Tom was the type who took a bath right after coming home, so I left the bath covered and ready. What? It's the cover. Since I didn't know what time you'd be home, I kept it covered to keep the water warm. Using Catherine's phone, I made sure not to miss any of his messages. I couldn't understand why he was so upset about the bath being covered.
What? Are you stupid? You're supposed to heat the bath right when I get home and leave it uncovered. How many times do I have to tell you, useless trash? The unexpected verbal abuse left me speechless. Catherine had to endure this over something as trivial as how to prepare a bath? And how was I supposed to know his exact return time? I thought to myself, but maintained a smile and simply said, I'm sorry. Oh, what's with you today? You're creepy. Huh? You usually get scared and freeze when Dad yells at you, but now you're smiling? It's creepy. The key difference between Catherine and me was our personalities. Catherine dislikes conflict and getting scolded, being a pacifist. On the other hand, I'm fiery and quick to fight, regardless of whether my opponent is male. I enjoy watching wrestling and cheer excitedly during soccer brawls. I've even dabbled in mixed martial arts. The idea of being afraid of a weakling like Tom didn't make sense to me. However, Catherine must have been scared and trembling, even at the slightest insult. To fully impersonate her, I needed to be careful from now on to avoid arousing suspicion. Panicked, I put on a troubled smile and started cleaning up the dishes to cover my mistake. It's nothing, Jessica. You must be imagining things. I realized that Jessica was more observant than I thought, so I needed to act scared, even if I didn't feel anything. Tom seemed less sharp, so I might be able to manage a month. But Jessica wouldn't be easy to fool. I gathered detailed information from Catherine about her daily routine and rehearsed meticulously to fully become her. The more I learned, the more I saw her life was that of a servant. She woke up at 5 a.m. to make their lunch and saw them off at the door. She managed her work in between chores with hardly any time for herself.
Catherine handled all the shopping, and Tom and Jessica never helped with household tasks. She checked Jessica's belongings when she came home and prepared anything needed for school. Jessica wanted to be the first to use the bath, so it had to be cleaned and ready when she got home. She was meticulous about cleanliness and would yell at Catherine over the smallest speck of dust. If Tom's beer wasn't chilled, he would scold her harshly. They had different tastes and meal times, so she had to prepare separate meals for them. When she tried serving a shared dish, they unleashed a torrent of verbal abuse. I would have left after 3 days, but Catherine endured it for a year. When I asked why she put up with it, she mentioned our parents. Tom really cares about his parents. He takes me to visit them every weekend he's not on a business trip, and he even looked into a paid senior home for them. Knowing how grateful they are, I thought if I just endured, no one would be hurt. Tom's annual income exceeded $63,000, and he knew Catherine took care of our parents. He promised to help with their care in exchange for her doing whatever he wanted. Catherine, being kind-hearted, couldn't refuse such a condition. Seeing how happy our parents are, I couldn't say anything. I can't tell them I'm suffering. The way Tom exploited her kindness made me furious. Now I understood why Tom and Jessica treated her so badly. Catherine couldn't resist under such circumstances. Realizing the truth, I trembled with rage. I won't forgive them. What? Catherine gasped at my whispered words. Those devils who exploited your kindness will pay. Don't worry, Catherine. I'll make sure you never suffer again. I declared, reassuring myself as much as her, and endured the hellish month. I faced Tom and Jessica's harassment, driven by the desire to save Catherine, and although I was exhausted in body and mind, I held on, looking forward to the big event a month later. And then a month later, I never imagined Catherine had bought such a house.
Really? I didn't expect her to buy a new house with her savings.
While they unpacked the furniture, I flashed them a wide grin. I wanted to surprise you two as a thank you for everything. My sarcastic tone didn't register with the clueless pair. Instead, they were too preoccupied with exploring the new house. They kept looking around curiously as they unpacked. This house was one I had contracted before canceling the previous one, without any consultation with the two of them. So at first, they were furious.
What were you thinking, signing a contract without consulting me, the head of the family? Where did you get the money?
If we were building a new house, I wanted to help plan the layout. Deciding without me is unacceptable. If the house has no style, I won't forgive you. Despite their anger at my unilateral action, they were captivated when I showed them the layout and the projected images of the house. Wow, for you, Catherine, this is pretty stylish. A garden and a bathroom with a skylight to see the stars? Amazing. Beautiful.
The location isn't bad, and my commute will be shorter than it is now.
It was purely coincidental, not something I did for him. But if they wanted to believe that, it worked in my favor. Boasting proudly about my achievement, I continued with the remaining tasks. They probably never imagined Catherine had this much money. Tom never nagged Catherine about money because he believed he had plenty himself. In fact, he ordered her to earn her own money for her needs, looking down on her income. They were likely shocked that she had such a large amount. I could easily imagine them now thinking of taking her money too, but I wouldn't let that happen. Today, I would end this hellish life. Trying to hide my joy at finally freeing Catherine, I suppressed my excitement. While I was lost in thought, Tom and Jessica excitedly began discussing the room arrangements. I'll choose this spacious room.
No fair, Jessica. I want that big room too.
Mistaking the house as theirs, they were elated. Watching them, I couldn't help but laugh, and they glared at me as if to ask why.
What's so funny? You look creepy.
Right? Catherine must be laughing because she agrees I should get the room. Dad would look silly in it, so she can't help but laugh, right?
Nonsense. Catherine is my wife. She wouldn't dare go against me, or it's divorce.
Watching them laugh, I laughed loudly. What are you two misunderstanding?
Huh?
This is my house, not yours. What are you talking about?
Have you lost your mind?
I haven't lost my mind. I'm perfectly sane. I don't understand why you think you're moving into this house.
What do you mean? Of course, As your husband and Jessica's father, it's natural for us to live together.
Oh, but I'm single. Who exactly do you think you've been with? Hearing this, the two looked at each other in shock, unable to comprehend the situation. At that moment, a car pulled up in front of the house and Catherine and our parents stepped out. Congrats on the new house, sis.
We've heard everything from Catherine.
Hello, Tom and Jessica.
Catherine? Isn't that Emily over there?
What is everyone talking about? Confused and bewildered, Tom and Jessica looked around, sweating nervously. Our parents gave them cold looks, and Catherine glared at them sternly. You don't even know who your wife is? Maybe you're not as smart as you think, Tom. You lack judgment. I untied my hair and removed my glasses, revealing my true self. I had disguised myself to blend in, but now I stood next to Catherine with a confident smile, ready to reveal everything. I'm Emily, and this is Catherine. You've been living with me for the past month.
What?
Tom shouted in disbelief while Jessica stood there stunned and speechless. This house was built with my money for me and our parents. Catherine told me about your situation a month ago, and I proposed this switch. Watching their shocked expressions was amusing, and I couldn't help but grin. Finally, I could say what I wanted. This moment of clarity felt incredibly liberating. Tom was already intimidated by me, unlike the timid Catherine. He lacked the confidence to confront me and was scared of my martial arts skills. Now, knowing it was me he had been harassing, he was visibly frightened, stepping back from me. You've had your fun for the past month. I always pay back what I'm owed. You two better be ready. Knowing they couldn't win against me, Tom was trembling. In contrast, Jessica, still not grasping the situation, angrily confronted me. How could you switch places without telling us? That's trespassing. I had Catherine's permission, so there's no issue. It was her house after all. Tom and Jessica had been living in Catherine's house because it was more convenient for their commute. Don't make baseless accusation about trespassing when the homeowner allowed it. But not discussing such a major thing with a family is outrageous. Don't you have any sense of responsibility for marrying my dad?
That's right. You've invaded our privacy.
Encouraged by Jessica, Tom tried to argue, though still fearful of me. I gave him a sharp look and pulled out my phone, showing a video. If you want to talk about privacy invasion, what about your human rights abuses? The video, recorded by hidden cameras, documented their numerous misdeeds. It captured not only their verbal abuse, but also moments when they threw objects at me. Realizing how damning the evidence was, both of them went pale. You filmed us? That's illegal. Don't be ridiculous. Catherine installed those cameras for security in her own home. It's not illegal surveillance.
But doing all this without telling us is inhumane.
Don't you dare preach ethics to me. Furious at Tom's words, I shouted loudly, intimidating the two. After all the harassment you've put Catherine through, you have the nerve to talk about ethics? And you only got close to her for my parents' inheritance, didn't you? I then showed another video where Tom and Jessica were laughing and talking when they thought I wasn't around. When are you going to divorce that woman? I want a younger, prettier mom.
I have to wait. She may be worthless, but her parents' land is valuable. A real estate agent confirmed it. We could sell that parking lot for a huge amount. Tom's true intentions were clear. He wanted my parents' inheritance. Enraged, my parents had come with Catherine to confront them after learning the truth. We took care of you all this time, and this is how you repay us? It's a good thing we never spent the money you sent us. Father threw a large bag in front of Tom. In here is all the money you've given us. What? Tom checked the bag and found all the money he had sent. My wife and I lived without touching that money. We arranged with a lawyer to return it to you when we passed away. Knowing they might not stay healthy forever, my parents had asked a lawyer to hold their will. How dare you treat our daughter like this? I'll never forgive you for hurting Catherine. Trembling, Tom and Jessica looked around for an escape. But there was nowhere to run. Mother stood firmly at the entrance. Where do you think you're going? If you plan to go back to that house, forget it. Your stuff is packed and left outside our front door, and the lease has been terminated. There's no going back. What? Thrown out. Hearing this, Tom and Jessica pushed past my mother and ran to the front door.
They were stunned to see their belongings piled up in boxes outside. "This is our house. There's no place here for strangers' stuff. Thanks for unpacking, although it hardly repays what you did to us this past month." I taunted them, and Jessica's face twisted with frustration. Realizing they had no place to go, they begged Catherine in desperation.
"Catherine, please, help us."
"If we have to sleep outside in this freezing weather, we'll die." It was January, with snow everywhere. Sleeping outside would be fatal, but that was no concern of mine. "Why don't you make an igloo and stay warm?" I taunted them, and they glared back at me, telling me to shut up. Their reaction was laughable, making me feel even better. Realizing they were getting nowhere with me, they turned to Catherine again, crying and clinging to her feet. Catherine, however, looked down, not meeting their gaze and saying nothing. Unlike me, she was a kind-hearted person. I began to worry that she might sympathize with them and change her mind. Just as I was about to ask her if she was all right, Catherine looked up and stepped away from them. With a stern expression, she delivered cold words. "I have no intention of staying involved with people who tried to ruin my family. I'm divorcing you. I've recorded all our interactions, and I will be claiming damages for all the suffering you've caused me." Tom and Jessica were speechless, shocked that Catherine, who had always obeyed them, was now standing up to them. It must have been the first time in her life she had spoken so harshly. Catherine, seemingly surprised at her own words, was breathing heavily with excitement. I was moved by her growth and couldn't help but laugh. "Well said, Catherine. So get ready for making my beloved family suffer like this. I will never forgive you. No amount of apologizing will change that." Completely defeated, Tom and Jessica were left trembling and in tears, their spirits broken. We successfully separated Catherine from her abusive husband and his accomplice. They tried to contact Catherine for help, but my father turned them away, and we hired a lawyer to proceed with the divorce. Thanks to the excellent lawyer introduced by my father, not only was the divorce finalized, but substantial damages were also claimed. After that, Tom and Jessica had no place to go and had to leave our town. In a small town like ours, any scandal quickly spreads. Their reputation was ruined, and Jessica was labeled a troublemaker at school, making it impossible for them to stay. Catherine told me that they had to leave town. With the toxic duo out of our lives, we now enjoy peaceful and happy days. Catherine moved in with us and has become a successful comic book artist, thriving in her work.